double checked. Okay, now how to write more concisely. How can we do this? How can we actually find ways to shorten your writing? Well, this is what we're going to be looking at, and there's many different ways that you can actually achieve it. The first one. Okay, so just this is a bit of sort of trivia, a bit of general knowledge actually from research that's been done. How many, I'll ask you a question and you can try and guess. How many or what percentage of the population do you think would understand a sentence of 7 to 10 words in the first reading? Okay, so for example, if imagine if someone shows you a sentence and you read it the first time and it's 7 to 10 words long, how many people or what percentage of people do you think would understand that complete sentence the first read? It's actually approximately 95%. Okay, so 95% of people reading a sentence for the first time that is between 7 to 10 words long will understand that complete sentence the first time. However, if you increase the words in that sentence, and this is including commas and everything between the beginning and the full stop, if it's 15 to 20 words long, that percentage dramatically reduces to 75%. Okay, so that means that 25% of people have to go back and reread the whole sentence again just to understand the meaning. Now, if you increase the wordage to 27 plus, it's only 4% of people who actually can understand that the first time. And you might be thinking, oh, I never write sentences with 27 plus words. I guarantee you do. If you go back and look at some of your sentences, you'll see some of them with maybe 2 or 3 commas or hyphens or whatever in the middle. And if you count the words, maybe not a lot, maybe just a few, but there will be some that are over 27 words long. It sounds more than it actually is. So please go and check it. Go and check some stuff that you've written and see for yourself. And try and remember this. 95% of people will understand it if it's under 10. Sometimes that's difficult to do, but definitely make sure that you are not writing more than 20 words in a sentence. 15 maximum. If you can keep it there, that's great if possible, wherever possible. Also, try and keep them under 20. Try to keep them under 12 or 15 if possible. But definitely use simple words instead of long ones, and eliminate words that repeat ideas or don't add value to a sentence. We'll talk about that more in the coming slides, but there are words like very, like basically, that people put in that have no value. With writing, try and remove them wherever you can for your readers' benefit. Okay, so eliminate redundant words. Cutting redundant tautologies can help create stronger, more direct sentences. Tautologies are expressions or phrases that repeat the same information. They take up unnecessary space and can distract your reader. Okay, so that's what a tautology actually is. You're probably thinking, well, what exactly is that and do I use them? Probably do, and I'm going to give you some examples of some common ones. Okay, so in my opinion, I think that's a problem. Admittedly, this is something that's more sort of spoken orally rather than written on many occasions, but I have seen it very I have seen it frequently in emails also. So it's repeating itself. In my opinion, I think it's the same thing if you think about it. You could remove the redundant words so that it's just, in my opinion, that's a problem. In my opinion, and I think, are pretty much the same thing. The course had several necessary requirements. Now, this is something, and I can fully understand why people do it. They want to stress the importance, so they use necessary and requirements. But if you think about it, if something is necessary, then it is a requirement. And if something is a requirement, of course it's necessary. So choose which one you want to use. Here I've chosen the course had several requirements. It's making it shorter straight away. For each and every toy you purchase, we will donate one R&B to a kids charity. Again, it's people trying to stress or to emphasize each and every single one. Well, you could have said every single, but yeah, each and every, same thing. Just remove one of them for every toy you purchase or for each toy you purchase. Here on the right, you'll also see some other common redundant pairs. Full and complete, each and every, hopes and dreams, whole entire. There's a list there of some other very common ones that people often tend to use. Try and remove them as much as possible. Even if you could just remove some. Obviously, especially spoken, people will use them to emphasize, and also sometimes it can sound good. It can make things sound more impressive when people emphasize using some of these tautologies. But in writing, the main reason to remove them is because it makes your sentence longer, which is harder for the reader to digest straight away. Now, deleting unnecessary qualifiers. So, yeah, qualifiers are things that people use to express meaning, such as really. You can often eliminate 1 or 2 words per sentence by deleting these unnecessary qualifiers. Okay, so for example, I'll read this to you and try and think which ones you would actually remove. Because a great many of the words in this sentence are basically unnecessary, it would really be a very good idea to edit somewhat for conciseness. Okay, so which ones of those would you remove? If you wish, please pause this now. Otherwise, I'll give you the answer. Because many of the words in this sentence are unnecessary, we should edit it. And here on the right, again, you have a lot some other common qualifiers that people typically include. Actually, really, basically, probably. There's a list there that people often use. So if you can, wherever you can, please try and avoid them. Construct positive sentences. Now, this is something I really would like you to embrace. Expressing ideas in a negative form means that you must use an extra word. It also makes readers work harder to figure out your meaning. Now, I'll try and give you an example first. I do a lot of sort of psychology based communication training, like EQ, through using NLP, and it is true that people typically think in the positive, which is good in a way. For example, if I say to you, I want you to not think about what I'm asking you to do. Okay, so don't think about a big blue elephant wearing underpants and a bra and a funny hat. Okay, don't think about that big blue elephant in his crazy dress standing on a table doing a dance. Don't think about that. Okay, now what probably happened is you pictured a blue elephant um, in some interesting dress or outfit, dancing on a table, maybe singing and dancing. And the reason is because before people can process not, they have to process the positive, the do. For example, if you say to your kid, don't talk, often the kid will think, well, what should I do then? If, for example, you said to them, speak more quietly, then it's easier for the kid to understand. Here's another example. If you do not have more than 5 years of experience, do not call for an interview if you have not already spoken to human resources. Now, I've thrown 3 in there, 3 negatives. Now, you have double negatives. With a triple negative, it's even harder to comprehend. Put it in the positive. So rather than have it negative, turn it into the positive and it becomes much more simple. For example, applicants with more than 5 years experience can bypass human resources and call for an interview. Okay, so whenever you've got a negative form of a word, there is usually a positive way of saying that same thing. So do that, it'll A, make your sentence shorter, and B, it'll be less confusing for the person hearing it, and C, it'll probably be less difficult for you to actually write it correctly, because writing with double and triple negatives can be challenging, and yeah, can turn out grammatically incorrect. So definitely do embrace that, and look back at some of your previous writing, and see if you've been doing it. And if so, think how you could change it to become more positive. Identify and reduce prepositional phrases. Okay, so overuse of prepositional phrases that begin with words like in, for, from, at, on, though, and over can make sentences clunky and unclear. To locate this problem, circle the prepositions in your draft and see whether you can eliminate any prepositional phrases without losing your meaning. Now, this is if you're writing on a piece of paper. I quite like writing on pieces of paper. I'm fairly old school in that respect. Not always, obviously. You know, it's much quicker to type. My typing is far faster than my writing. And also it's easier to change. But I do often like, you know, if I have something that I really need to spend a lot of time on, you know, going out, you know, go to the park, go for a coffee, and maybe take a piece of paper and a pen like people used to do, and write it out, and then circle things that I might need to change, and then I'll type it. Um, if you're not doing it that way, if you're just going to use a Word document, and just one other quick thing, if you're writing an important email, definitely if you're replying to an important email, don't just hit reply and write the email, because it's very easy to accidentally hit send too quickly. Put it in a Word document first. The spell check is actually better for some reason than normal email spell checkers. But also, yeah, you'll be able to do things like, you know, here you highlight words, you can do a word search for these words to actually look for them specifically, and then you can make your amendments to the Word document. When you're happy with it 100%, you can then copy it over to your email. The reason for the failure of our last project, I'm not going to read all of that. I'm just going to show you how much shorter it can become by reducing these prepositional phrases. Here, the good one is we failed the product promotion campaign in the Northeast China region due to our staff not being able to answer our customers' questions. You've reduced that massively into nearly half the size by just removing prepositional phrases. For example, you know, the reason for the and the sort of the ins, the froms, the ofs, the ats, the ons. Try and remove those as much as possible. Use the nouns and the adjectives as you need them. And yeah, keep those prepositional phrases to a minimum wherever possible. Okay, and tip number 5, locate and delete unnecessary modifiers. Sometimes the meaning of a word or phrase implies its modifier, making it unnecessary. Okay, so look at words in the sentence that sort of imply one another. Maybe you don't need all of the words that you're using. For example, do not try to anticipate in advance those events that will completely revolutionize society. Now, anticipate means it implies in advance. Similarly, revolutionize, it implies completely. So, which ones can you remove? Well, here we can remove the in advance and completely. So do not try to anticipate revolutionary events. So yeah, if words are implied by other words, then remove them as they're not necessary. Sometimes they might be, but generally, or many times, they can be removed. So, yeah, please do keep these 5 tips in mind, and just have a look at anything else that you've written, but also obviously in future writing, maybe have these as a little guideline to see and to make sure that you're not using any of these, and shorten things as much as possible. And also, yeah, you'll hopefully see results fairly immediately, especially in email writing. Okay, so that's the end of these 5 tips. I'll see you in the next slide.